The Norman Conquest, a turning point in English history. Welcome to the exploration of one of the most transformative events in English history, the Norman Conquest of 1066. This pivotal moment marked the beginning of a new era as William the Conqueror's victory at the Battle of Hastings forever altered the trajectory of England. The conquest not only brought profound changes to the political and social structures, but also left an indelible mark on the English language and culture. Join us as we delve into how this monumental event reshaped the very fabric of English society, setting the stage for the modern nation we recognize today. Before we delve into the dramatic events of the Norman conquest, let's take a step back and look at England in the years leading up to 1066. During this period, England was under Anglo Saxon rule, a time marked by patchwork of kingdoms gradually unified under a central monarchy. Anglo Saxon society was organized around a system of earldoms and shires, with a strong emphasis on kinship and loyalty. One of the key figures of this era was King Edward the Confessor, who reigned from 1042 until his death in January 1066. Edward was a pious and relatively peaceful king, known for his construction of Westminster Abbey. However, his death, without a clear heir, led to a crisis that would plunge England into turmoil. Edward's passing triggered a succession crisis as multiple claimants weighed for the throne, each with their own backing and ambitions. Among these claimants was Harold Godwinson, a powerful English noble who was quickly crowned king. However, his claim was contested by William, the Duke of Normandy, who asserted that Edward had promised him the throne years earlier. This dispute set the stage for one of the most significant invasions in English history. As we move forward, we will see how these tensions and rivalries culminated in the Norman conquest, reshaping the destiny of England and its people. The backdrop of a divided and uncertain England provides a crucial context for understanding the profound changes that followed the conquest. Now let's turn our attention to William, the Duke of Normandy, and his climb to the English throne, a climb that set the stage for one of the history's most famous invasions. William, known as William the Conqueror, was a formidable and ambitious leader with a strong background as the Duke of Normandy. His rule over Normandy had already demonstrated his military prowess and strategic acumen. However, his ambitions extended beyond the borders of Normandy. He had his sights set on the English throne. According to William, King Edward the Confessor had promised him the throne of England years earlier, a claim blustered by Norman chroniclers. This promise was supposedly made during a visit William had made to England in the early 1050s, where Edward, lacking a direct heir, allegedly assured William that he would be his successor. This claim was further supported by the Pope, who provided William with a papal banner symbolizing the divine approval of his quest. Determined to secure his claim, William began preparing for an invasion. He gathered a formidable army composed not just of Normans but also of adventurers from across Europe who were promised land and riches in return for their service. William's preparations were meticulous. He built a large fleet to transport his troops across the English Channel and equipped his soldiers with the latest armor and weaponry of the time. William's climb to the throne, combined with his military preparations and the support of the Pope, set the stage for the historic confrontation at the Battle of Hastings. His determination and strategic planning would soon be put to the ultimate test, leading to a decisive moment in English history. As we proceed, we will explore how these preparations and climbs culminated in a battle that changed the course of England forever. Let's now focus on the pivotal event of the Norman conquest, the Battle of Hastings, which took place on October 14, 1066, near the town of Hastings in southern England. This battle would become one of the most decisive and well documented battles in medieval history. On that fateful day, the forces of William, the Duke of Normandy, faced off against the army of Harold Godwinson, the recently crowned King of England. Harold's forces were weary, having just repelled an invasion by the Norwegian King Harald at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Despite this, Harold quickly marched his troops south to confront the Norman invaders. The battle began with a series of strategic maneuvers. William's army, well prepared and organized, consisted of archers, infantry, and cavalry. In contrast, Harold's forces primarily comprised infantry, including the feared housecarls and the local militia. The English formed a shield wall, a traditional defensive tactic designed to repel the assaults. The key moments defied the ebb and flow of the battle. William's initial attacks met stiff resistance from the English shield wall. At one point, a rumor spread that William had been killed, causing panic among the Norman troops. However, William lifted his helmet to show he was alive, rallying his forces to continue the flight. A crucial point came when the Normans faked retreat, drawing parts of Harold's forces into a vulnerable pursuit. This tactic broke the cohesion of the English lines, allowing the Norman cavalry to exploit the gaps. Throughout the day, the battle swayed with intense combat, but the tide turned decisively in favor of the Normans. The outcome was sealed with the death of Harold Godwinson, who was struck down in the heat of battle, allegedly by an arrow eye. With Harold's death, the English forces began to falter and ultimately fell into disarray. By the end of the day, William's victory was complete. The Norman victory at the Battle of Hastings had far reaching consequences. It marked the end of the Anglo Saxon rule and the beginning of Norman dominance in England. This battle not only determined the immediate future of the English throne, but also set the stage for profound cultural and political changes that would reshape the entire nation. As we move forward, we will explore the lasting impact of this monumental event on English history. The Norman conquest of 1066 had profound and lasting consequences that reshaped England in significant ways. Politically, the conquest led to the establishment of Norman rule in England. William the Conqueror became the King of England, ushering in a new era of Norman monarchy. To solidify his control, William redistributed the land among his Norman supporters, effectively replacing the existing Anglo Saxon aristocracy with Norman nobles. This restructuring of land ownership laid the groundwork for a new feudal system in England. The introduction of the feudal system was a key development resulting from the conquest. This system, common in medieval Europe, was characterized by a hierarchical structure in which land was granted in exchange for loyalty and military services. Under this system, the king owned all the land, which was then distributed among the nobles and vassals who swore allegiance to him. This system of land tenure and loyalty formed the basis of medieval society in England for centuries to come. Culturally, the Norman conquest had a profound impact as well. The Normans brought with them their own language, Old Norman French, which began to merge with Old English, the language spoken by the Anglo Saxons. This fusion of languages and cultures resulted in Middle English, which would become the dominant language in England in the centuries following the conquest. Additionally, Norman influences were seen in architecture, art, and literature, enriching the cultural landscape of England. Moreover, the Norman conquest of 1066 was a watershed moment in English history. leading to significant political, social, and cultural changes, the establishment of Norman rule, the introduction of the feudal system, and the fusion of Norman and Anglo-Saxon cultures all contributed to the evolution of England into a new and dynamic society. One of the most enduring legacies of the Norman conquest was its profound impact on the English language. With the Normans came their language, Old Norman French, which began to permeate all levels of English society. Initially, Old English and Old Norman existed side by side as the languages of two distinct social classes. Old English was spoken by the common folk, while Old Norman was the language of the ruling elite and the church. This bilingual society had a profound impact on the English language. Old Norman French influenced the English grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. It enriched the English language, particularly in areas such as law, art, and governance, where many terms were borrowed directly from Old Norman. The words like government, castle, court, and justice entered the English lexicon during this time, adding the depth and nuance to the language. The merging of the Old English and the Old Norman also gave birth to the Middle English, a transitional stage in the evolution of the language. Middle English retained much of the grammar and structure of Old English but incorporated a significant number of Norman French words, leading to a language that was more sophisticated and nuanced. The linguistic impact of the Norman quest was profound and far reaching, shaping the English language into what it is today. The coexistence of Old English and Old Norman and their eventual fusion into Middle English laid the foundation for the rich and diverse vocabulary that defines modern English. The Norman conquest was not just a political and cultural event, but also a linguistic one, leaving an indelible mark on the language spoken by millions around the world. The Norman conquest of 1066 left a lasting legacy that profoundly shaped the course of English history and the development of English nation. In the long term, the conquest had significant effects of governance, culture, and language in England. The introduction of Norman rule and the establishment of feudalism fundamentally changed the way society was structured. The feudal system brought a new hierarchy of land ownership and obligations, laying the groundwork for the medieval social order in England. Culturally, the Norman conquest led to a blending of Norman and Anglo-Saxon customs and traditions. Over time, these two cultures integrated and influenced each other, creating a rich tapestry of customs, beliefs, and practices that shaped the identity of medieval England. The conquest also had a profound impact on the English language. The infusion of Norman French vocabulary into Old English resulted in the development of the Middle English, which laid the foundation for the modern English language we speak today. This linguistic legacy is evident in the thousands of words of French origin that are now part of the English vocabulary. Historically, the Norman conquest is seen as a defining moment in English history. It marked the beginning of Norman rule in England and the end of the Anglo-Saxon era. The conquest led to significant changes in governance, culture, and language that shaped the development of modern England. Moreover, the Norman conquest of 1066 left a lasting legacy that is still evident in England today. It transformed the political and social landscape, influenced the development of English language, and laid the foundation for the culture and society of medieval England. The conquest is a testament to the enduring impact of historical events on the evolution of nations and cultures.
To obtain a course completion certificate, visit our site and finish the rest of the course video. Sign up or sign in, choose your level, watch the video and take the quiz. Finish all the quiz to unlock the final quiz and get your certificate. Happy learning!